Michael, a former cowboy, ate breakfast with his wife Eleanor Love and their son Nat Love in their home on the Texas prairie. The table was set, and Michael led a short prayer of thanks. A sudden knock interrupted him. Michael walked to the door and opened it to find Rufus Buck, a feared gang leader known for killing without hesitation. Shock and fear showed on Michael's face. Michael stayed calm and invited Rufus inside, hoping to protect his family. Rufus sat at the table and set down 2 golden pistols. He aimed one at Eleanor and Nat. One of Rufus's men, a man with a scorpion tattoo on his left hand, grabbed Nat from behind. Michael pleaded for his family's lives and offered his own. Rufus ignored him and shot Eleanor. Nat screamed. Michael tried to fight back, but Rufus shot him in the head. Nat cried over his parents as another gang member cut a cross into his forehead with a knife. Rufus and his men left, leaving Nat alone with his dead parents. The boy's life shattered in an instant, and from that day forward the harder they fall. Years later, Nat prayed before a statue of Jesus in a church. A man named Cortez, the same man with the scorpion tattoo, entered to pray. Nat greeted him with a smile and said God had granted his request. He removed his cowboy hat to show the cross-shaped scar. Cortez froze in shock. Nat drew his gun and shot Cortez in the head. Elsewhere, Bill Pickett, a member of Nat's gang, watched a group of robbers leaving town. Nat's gang targeted criminals who had stolen from townspeople. As the robbers neared the hills, Pickett opened fire and knocked them from their horses. Only 3 robbers survived. Jim Beckworth, another member of Nat's gang, arrived to help.
Them motherfuckers pink now.
Jim shot 2 more, leaving one alive.
Keep talking.
The last man, Monroe Grimes, warned them that attacking Rufus's gang meant certain death. After learning Monroe worked for Rufus, Jim and Pickett spared him and took him to their hideout. That night Nat relaxed with his girlfriend Mary Fields at a nightclub. Pickett arrived and said they had captured one of Rufus' men. Nat left at once for their hideout. At the base Nat interrogated Monroe with a gun drawn. He demanded to know where Rufus was. Monroe said Rufus was in a Texas state prison and would be released the next night. When Nat asked where Rufus would go, Monroe answered that Rufus would head to his base in Redwood. Nat chose not to kill Monroe and let him walk away. The next day guards prepared to move Rufus by train to another prison. His gang planned an ambush. Trudy Smith rode her horse onto the tracks and forced the train to stop. The operator stepped down and told her to move.
What the hell are you doing out here?
Trudy shot him in the head. Rufus' men boarded the train. A young sheriff aimed his gun at Cherokee Bill. Cherokee warned that his men would kill every passenger if blocked. The sheriff backed down and allowed them through. Cherokee then took him hostage as the gang advanced. The prison warden, fearing for the passengers, ordered Rufus released. As he stepped out, his men opened fire on the officers.
And the next one more time.
Rufus walked out calmly, rejoined his gang, and they left at once for Redwood, a town he had built with stolen money and abandoned years earlier.
Everybody but him.
There, Wiley Esco was waiting. He had managed the town during Rufus's time in prison. Rufus went to the bank to collect the money his crew had hidden. The clerk told him the funds were gone. 2 days earlier, unknown cowboys had robbed the gang's stash in the Texas hills. The clerk added that all other deposits were also empty. Rufus remembered saving $25,000 before his arrest and realized someone inside had taken it. He went straight to Wiley. Rufus demanded the money. Wiley said the cash had funded the group's operations and revealed plans to sell the town to white businessmen and drive out the black residents. Confident and arrogant, Wiley spoke as if he owned the city. Rufus's anger rose. He had trusted Wiley to protect the town. He challenged Wiley to fight barehanded. Wiley struck first, but Rufus overpowered him and landed several hard punches.
That's what you came in for.
Rufus spared Wiley's life out of respect for their past work together and ordered him to leave the city. That night Nat relaxed in a bar. Sheriff Bass Reeves approached his table and asked to speak with him. Nat's gang watched closely from across the room. Without warning, Bass poured beer on Nat and aimed a gun at the gang. He said Nat was wanted for bank robbery and that he would take him in for questioning. Nat told his men to stay calm and let the sheriff escort him, confident he could deal with the charge on his own. The next morning Sheriff Bass and Nat traveled far from the gang's base. Bass stopped the train in a forest clearing and told Nat to step off. The arrest from the night before had been a ruse. Bass wanted to speak in private and ask for Nat's help to kill Rufus. Bass had once investigated the murder of Nat's parents and now offered Nat the chance to take revenge. Nat had arranged the fake arrest to keep his friends out of danger. Unaware of his plan, Nat's gang and the bar owner Cuffy had followed the train through the night. They stepped from the trees before Nat could explain. Pickett spoke first and said they had overheard everything. The gang had already agreed to help. They knew Rufus and his men were violent and would not hesitate to kill. Pickett reminded Nat they were family. They would rather fight and die together than leave him to face Rufus alone. Nat accepted their support. Meanwhile in Redwood, Trudy gathered the townspeople and revealed that Wiley had mortgaged the city to white businessmen. To stop the takeover, each household now owed $50,000. When one resident refused to pay, Rufus shot him on the spot.
James.
He warned the crowd to raise the money or lose their lives. Back in the forest, Nat's group met with Sheriff Bass to plan their attack. During the discussion they encountered Wiley, who was fleeing the town after his defeat. Bass arrested him at once and demanded information about Rufus. Wiley warned that an unprepared assault would be suicide. He proposed a plan. One of them would pose as a businessman offering to buy a bar in Redwood. Since Rufus needed money to cover the town's debt, he would welcome the deal. This distraction would give Nat's group a way to enter the town and strike. Nat agreed and asked Wiley to join them, believing he also wanted revenge on Rufus. In the evening Mary rode into Redwood to meet Rufus. She offered to buy a bar as part of the group's plan. During the discussion she slipped and mentioned the recent robbery of Rufus' men. The news had not spread, and Rufus became suspicious. Realizing Mary was one of the robbers, he ordered Trudy to strike her. Mary collapsed. The next morning Nat grew worried when Mary did not return. Fearing the worst, he led his gang to Redwood. Trudy met them in the street and accused them of stealing from Rufus. She revealed Mary tied up as a hostage. Trudy demanded the stolen money plus an extra $10,000. If they failed to pay by the next day, Mary would die. Nat and his crew decided to rob a bank to raise the money quickly. They relied on their skills and experience to make the plan work. Cuffy disguised herself as a wealthy woman so she could enter the bank without drawing attention. Nat joined her while the rest waited outside. Inside, Cuffy approached the counter and calmly announced a robbery. The teller laughed, thinking it was a joke. Cuffy pulled a gun. Nat aimed at the guard, who backed down. They collected the cash and left. As they exited, the alarm sounded and police opened fire, but Pickett covered their escape. Later in the forest, the gang counted the money. Wiley arrived carrying stolen weapons and ammunition from Rufus' armory. With supplies in hand, they prepared for the rescue. Sheriff Bass rode ahead in a carriage, pretending to deliver the ransom. Rufus watched from a window as Bass met Cherokee, who began to inspect the money. When Rufus' men neared the carriage, an explosion ripped through the area, killing several of them. Cherokee aimed his gun at Bass, but Bass said the blast was only a warning to make Rufus keep his promise to release Mary. Soon after, Nat approached Redwood with Cuffy in a carriage carrying the real ransom, while Pickett and the rest of Nat's gang spread out to cover the approach. Rufus again watched from the window as Nat warned he would blow up the cash if Mary was not released. Trudy finally stepped forward and brought Mary out. As Nat stepped toward Mary, Cherokee aimed a gun at his back. Jim moved in behind Cherokee and raised his own weapon. Cherokee challenged Jim to a duel. Before the count finished, Cherokee fired first and killed Jim.
Why do they always have to...
From a rooftop, Pickett saw his friend fall and, enraged, launched an explosive into the carriage, destroying the money. With the ransom gone, Rufus ordered his men to attack. A fierce gunfight broke out. Nat and his crew fought hard and cut down most of Rufus's gang. Meanwhile, Mary chased Trudy to a nearby farm. The two women fought in a brutal close-quarters battle. After a long struggle, Mary killed Trudy. Back in the street, Bass and Nat faced the remaining gunman. A bullet struck Nat in the shoulder and he fell. As another outlaw aimed to finish him, Base shot the attacker and pulled Nat behind a carriage for cover. The memory of his parents' murder flashed through Nat's mind, fueling his drive to end the fight. Wounded but determined, he stood and fired on Rufus's men. At the same time, Wiley confronted Rufus in his hideout. Before Wiley could speak, Rufus triggered a hidden bomb on Wiley's body, killing him instantly. Elsewhere, Pickett and Cuffy advanced through the base. Cherokee ambushed them and shot Pickett from behind. Furious, Cuffy challenged him to a duel and killed him with a single shot. With the last fight over, Nat moved into Rufus's hideout, ready to end what had started years earlier. Rufus sat waiting as Nat demanded if he remembered the boy whose life he had ruined. Rufus said he did. He explained that he killed Nat's parents because he wanted revenge on their father, who had once been his own. Rufus described years of abuse, beatings, and the day his father murdered his mother while she tried to protect him. After the killing, the man stole her property and left Rufus behind. Years later, Rufus tracked him down. By then the man had a new wife and a young son. That son was Nat. The story stunned Nat. He refused to believe the father he loved had been capable of such cruelty. He accused Rufus of lying, but Rufus pressed closer and urged him to pull the trigger. Shaken and furious, Nat fired. Rufus fell, killed by his own brother. The next day, Nat and his gang buried Jim and Pickett. Each member went separate ways. Cuffy returned to her bar. Base resumed his duties as sheriff. Nat and Mary rode off together to begin the next chapter of their lives. So the moral of the story is never mess with cowboys who pray before pulling the trigger, because family grudges last longer than golden pistols.